last minute. It was a wonderful conversation. I imagine the same will happen here. So let's not waste any more time. Dinara, do you feel comfortable getting us started?
And I'm the only one from the presenter?
Yes, but I think Mieste will be joining us for sure, and I'm hoping that the other two, Margulan and Bonu, will also join us shortly. Do
Yeah,
you think
sure.
you
Then,
could write them, Katya?
then I will start presenting now, or?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll introduce you. So welcome everyone to our second round of panels. This panel, Culture Panel 12, is called Cultural Heritage in Colonial and Post-Colonial Contexts. And we have 4 excellent papers. Hopefully our other presenters will show up, but we're going to start with, oh my gosh, why is my computer freaking out? We're going to start with Dinara Turagulova's paper, Accessory Nationalism, Consumers, Commodities, and the Banality of Ethnic Branding. And Dinara is, it says here from Nazarbayev University, but is in Vienna, as I understand. So maybe you want to, a quick line about yourself before you begin. And you're muted, by the way.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Very nice to be here. So the quick introduction about myself while sharing my presentation. Wait, sorry. Can you see my screen?
It's loading, but I think it's just black. Can others see the screen?
Just black for myself as well.
Okay, I'll try again.
Okay.
So I did my bachelor's in Nazarbayev University, but then I started my master's program at Central European University and in Vienna. And my master's is in Nationalism Studies. And I recently graduated, and now I'm doing my internship. But still, I want to pursue the academic career further. And currently, I'm also part of the USTA mentorship program. So if you don't know about that, it's a mentorship program done by 2 Central Asian female researchers, Ayşe Tulumtlu and Gulnaz, I forgot, Berdibeko, or from Kyrgyzstan, like I don't remember her surname. So, and I will work on this paper, and probably in 2026, there would be a publication on everyday economies and in the Central Asian context. So, so to set your expectations, it's still in process. It's a thesis dissertation for my master's program. So I would really appreciate if you could give me some comments or some recommendations regarding the theory or the way I framed the examples. And yeah, so let's get started. You can see my presentation, right? Yeah,
yep.
Great. So in Kazakhstan, recently, almost most of the shops and art places, they started to notice that the traditional ornaments and traditionality and so to say ethno fashion got a bit more popular. And this is one of the example. If you don't know Russian, I can translate. It says like, I'm trying to find, I'm searching for my national identity. And it's just like a art postcard, but still it shows what my paper would be about. So I was interested why this is happening, why these things are being worn, like traditional elements with some very everyday jeans. So it's not like these people were wearing these traditional elements for the weddings or for some very cultural events like Nowruz, but these things were worn like on everyday basis to the coffee shops, to the meeting with friends, and the commodities that were bought were like very different kinds. So you can see the hats, there were like ornamented jewelries, phone cases, shoppers. So you can see the ornaments and the Kazakh traditional elements on different consumer goods. And I was really trying to figure out why these people are buying it. So I conducted certain interviews with the consumers, but also at that time I was taking a course and the professor said you can also talk with people who sell it and who promote it. And at that point, I started to think like, how do people promote these things to make people purchase it, or like how do they market these things, like how do they advertise? And so overall the bigger questions were like, why do people purchase these things, and why they always called like ethno brands or ethno shops or ethno festivals? And recently in Almaty there was a festival of the ethno goods, so there were like different people selling like selling different things and offering different services that were somehow connected to the traditional Kazakh way of doing things, or like traditional Kazakh ornaments. So they were teaching people how to crave the ornaments, or like how to sew the ornaments. And it was, for me, it was like, why this is now getting so popular, and why people go there, and is it connected to certain like everyday nationalism, or whether it's connected to the trying to go back to the roots, and if so, how it's promoted. And because I was studying at the Nationalism Studies program, there are certain series in the field, and one of the most prominent work is Invented Traditions by Hobsbawm. So it's like certain national costumes are created actually not by primordial societies, like they are not like original or really natural, but rather they are invented and they are taught to people. And but the second most useful series that I implemented in my paper was the everyday nationalism. And everyday nationalism, it's like when people recreate the national identity, and through when ordinary people recreate this or reproduce this national identity through how they speak, or like through everyday commodities. And now you can ask like, how is it connected with decoloniality? And in that regard, I'm a bit hesitant. So that theoretical part is still not so developed, but I do feel like that maybe I can ask the question of like, is the everyday nationalism can be also framed as everyday decoloniality? So for example, after the Russian-Ukraine war or occupation, actually, maybe people also started to, like, the decolonization became super popular term in the Kazakh academic and also art circles, but also like in everyday Instagram. So maybe these people, when they purchase these things, they not only thinking about like the national identity, but also about like getting back to the roots and decolonizing oneself from the influence of Russian culture or like Soviet culture. And what's like that's maybe the way to connect it with the decoloniality. And then the last question that might be also very interesting to include to the paper was that economy as a part of the commodification and the role of the commerce and yeah, so like commodification and like selling national goods, but like making national identity purchasable, if there is a word like that, like object, and selling it. And then yeah, Wait, next slide. And one of the ways that my supervisor was trying to lead me was to look at also to the pictures and look at how they are promoted. So the first two examples are the way these things were marketed through the social media, through the Instagram. And if you look at it, it's not like only stressing the traditionality, like, but also like if you look at this part in the example in the middle, it also has something to do with the modernity and like, so they're trying to create something new using the traditional ornaments, but like putting them into the very modern and urban outfits. But also like another interesting aspect is like some of them are also unisex products, but mostly they target like female audience. So it's like jewelries and accessories that female population can use. And then we come to the like to the gendered aspect of it. and here, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the everyday nationalism and the commodification of the nation. And that another interesting part that I noticed that most of the things were not only popular among older generation, but also very popular among the younger generation. And my question was like, why it got so popular among the youth, and why youth is buying it, even though they don't want to be like traditional Kazakhs, but still buying the things with the traditional ornaments and putting them into the very modern way. So if you look at this picture, the girls are not trying to be like in a very super traditional national costume, but rather make some elements, but still have some modern clothing, like simple black pullover and trousers. And when I asked the question from the people who were selling it, they said that they were interested in Kazakh and the Turkic roots, and they were like trying to recreate the tradition, but also they mentioned that it was popular and that's how they started to earn money. And then so like so you cannot just focus on the traditional and like recreation of the national identity part, but also the economic part is present. I'm sorry. Oh. Now, in my paper, I talked to the 3 founders of the ethnic businesses because of the advice of my supervisor. So to really get from the interview. But then after asking them, I also got to know that the products can be not only like the things that you can buy, but also the services. Like there was one club that was teaching like how to learn the archery or like horse riding, but specifically in a traditional way. And the way they were marketing it was through the signaling some connection to the Kazakhnas, or like through the signaling the connection with the past, or like the way, yeah. So if you go to the archery club, you would see a lot of ornaments, a lot of like Kazakh signaling the national way of living. And yeah, in that regards, my next slide would be very helpful. Like in this Soviet Union, there is a term like socialist, national in form, but socialist in the context. So I can also focus on the historiography of these national costumes. and that some of the national costumes were actually presented by Soviet government, and the national identities that were how to say, like, presented or like constructed by Soviet Union, and every nation had to have their own national costume and national dish and the flag. But like this connection with the Soviet history, but also like looking at the independence, like whether the people are trying to get away from the Soviet past, but still going through the processes that Soviet government was kind of constructing, like, but also we should look at the time frame. So yeah, and the last part is like the gendered aspect, as I told before, that most of the people who are selling this, like who are the business owners, are females, the ones that I interviewed, and most of the things are actually promoted to the female audience. And in that regards, like, so the woman's body is not only the, like, in the one of the nationalism studies series, it's not only the recreation of the nation because they are giving birth to the people, but also like through women, like through female, learn how to be, like, how to behave. But also in my example, it's like through targeting women and targeting female objects, like recreating the nations through commodities that are used usually by females. So it's like accessories, clothing, and commerce. And yeah, and usually most of the people might say that the national costumes and the national dishes are usually presented when there is some events or some people that are coming to visit Kazakhstan. And I found a lot of example when there was the Expo 2017, like how the Kazakhstan was presented. So we can see that it's coming from above, like from the state to, like, from top to bottom. Again, like national studies series, like top down, but also with this example that most of the people started to sell these products, it's again like from bottom to the top. So it's like I'm trying to figure out, is it rather, maybe it's both actually, like promoted by the state, like certain way of presenting the Kazakhstan, and like when you welcome some foreign guests, and to show your culture and your national identity, or but also like how ordinary people recreate, reproduce a national thinking through selling some things or purchasing some things. So for example, the first photo, figure 10, it's like, it's probably from top to bottom, like the way that government usually chooses the costumes and government subsidizes the things. But from the figure on the right, you can see that it's like one business owner is just like trying to sell taqiyya, like the hat, but nobody's sponsoring her or like trying to give, like, tell her the instructions or the form of it, but rather she's doing it. Yeah, but the main question is like, why exactly this form? Why exactly this ornaments? And why do people buy it? But I think like for one paper, it's too many questions. But yeah, but that's all the questions that I had in my head while writing this paper. And here is my reference list. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the attention. I hope I'm like on time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have up to 5 minutes, but you're welcome to end early. And it looks like Mieste is gonna join us towards the end of this panel. I think she got the timing wrong, so maybe we can I'll give some comments for your paper, and then we can open it up for questions, and then if she joins, we'll figure out how to do it. Because we are just going to be flexible and adaptable. So I'll start with some comments, but if the other audience members have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or turn your camera on, and I'll be happy to let you ask Dinara some questions. So Dinara,
And
thank you
sorry,
so much.
should I stop
Yeah.
sharing or?
Yeah, unless you think, I don't know that, well, yeah,
Yeah.
let's stop for now, and then if you want to share your screen again to when you're answering questions, you can. So Dinara, I thought this was a really great start for a MA paper or possibly a PhD dissertation. This is like a really interesting topic. I'd also be curious to hear more about this USTA mentorship program. It seems like something that SES would like to promote as well, and it sounds like a really fruitful mentorship program to help young scholars. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, so I'm curious about a few things in your in your MA thesis paper and what you presented today. So why ethno? Like how is this term used in contemporary Kazakhstan? What does it mean? Because to me, it already raises a question. If we're talking about national identity, what is this ethno category, because it seems looser and more flexible than national identity. So I'm curious to hear how this term is used in the contemporary Kazakh or post-Soviet context, and how you think it relates to national identity, the invention of national identity. You mentioned Eric Hobsbawm, but also we can, Anderson is usually cited when we see these kinds of conversations, or Gellner. And specifically, I'm curious about the nationalism of everyday nationalism, because there were a couple of moments in your presentation where I was like, well, maybe this is something a little bit different. Here's some examples. In one of the interview quotes you provided, the person corrected themselves. They said Kazakh, and then they said, no, actually Turkic roots. So it seems to me that like it's not exactly just national identity. Of course, it's something about nationalism or national identity, but there might be something else going on here. Another example, okay, I just wrote Kazakhnis. I can't remember what my point was there. But there was something else in your presentation where there are these moments where it's like, oh, connect, like archery. Is archery connecting to national identity? Is it connecting to some idea of the past? So I'd be curious to hear how you define this and whether or not there's room to maybe challenge that a little bit. And then I was thinking about the decoloniality and post-coloniality and these questions that you raised about, um, like what's the framework to use here? Because in some ways, like commodifying and reducing national identity to these set phrases, like you mentioned in the middle of your presentation, is a very Soviet thing. So I'm curious to see, like, in which ways is this like a legacy of the Soviet Union? In which ways is this taking a new direction? And there's a dissertation, I'm not sure if you know about it, which I don't think this scholar, I think she finished her dissertation, but then didn't publish anything more on it. But I think it would be really useful for you. It's called Selling Socialism, Consuming Difference, Ethnicity and Consumer Culture in Soviet Central Asia, 1945 to 1985 by Catherine Dooley. I'll put the link. I'll send you the link
Okay.
directly, because I was thinking like, well, what if this is part of a longer story, and then learning the Soviet side, what the consumption and production of like ethnic culture or national culture looked like in the late Soviet Union would help you sharpen your analysis a little bit. Um, Yeah, I think that's it for now. Oh, one more thing. So Yeah, just thinking about the connection between Soviet nationalities and post-Soviet nationalities, and whether this is a decolonial move or are Central Asians dealing with the conditions of post-colonialism? Like, how does that fit into your framework? So yeah, that's all I had, but I'd be curious to hear your response, and then we can open it up to the audience for questions.
Should I answer your questions or
Yeah,
like comment
please.
now or like after? Because if after I have to write it down because yeah. Wait.
Well, answer what you like.
Okay.
You know, some of that is also for you to take and think about in the coming
Yeah.
weeks. So
Yeah.
answer what you like. And it looks like Bonu just joined, so we'll do your rounds of questions, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll
Right.
move on to her presentation.
So regarding the ethno, it's very interesting question, and actually it gives like it makes some people really emotional. Like some people really get irritated when everything is called ethno, because there are, in Kazakhstan there can be ethno cafes, ethno festivals. Like they use ethno without thinking much about it. So like so, but then if you connect it with the nationalism studies series, there is the ethno-nationalism and civil nationalism, which is like problematic to divide it into two parts. Like, and usually ethnic nationalism is like looked down, but civil, it's like more European nations, but actually like there was a lot of debates, and afterwards every nationalism have some sort of ethno or civic. But I feel like in Kazakhstan, the term ethno is like super loose, as you told. And maybe I can also include that to the paper, like what people actually think about this word. And what's that ethno like? Is it like Kazakh ethnos or like, because Kazakh and Kyrgyz cultures can be overlapped, or yeah, like as you told before, like Turkic. Then like with the Turkic thing, I feel like there can be like pan-nationalism. So like this great Turkestan identity, like, you know, like when all the states in Central Asia, and then they have like this identity that connects them all, and maybe people are trying to go there, but then it leads us towards like what people think about the, like when they think about the ethno products, what's in their head, like what type of images they think of, because usually it's like super primordial, like the archery, they connect it with the sax, like way before even like Kazakh state. So then like what's included to this like scope of the Kazakh, like traditional primordial Kazakh, and yeah, that's very hard to tell. But yeah, and my question would be like how to, so it's like imagination again, like imagining, but then you can also say they are creating something new, because national identity is not static, it's always changes, and maybe they are trying to like change it and like create something new using all the like different cultural images, some comments, and yeah, some
and maybe this is like where the everyday nationalism that you're proposing to use like would be useful, because we're academics, we want like a logical coherence, you know, for the nation building project, but what you're showing is that it's actually a lot messier, and they're pulling from archery from this period and you know, the takia from this period, and maybe it doesn't matter to some of the people that you're talking to, that they're mixing all of these things.
And the last question regarding the decoloniality and the post-coloniality, that's my weakest point. And I feel like there was a lot of works by Madina Tlastanova, Botagos Kosenbekova, and like I have to really delve into that. But for now, I'm stuck with this nationalism series. So I really will try to connect it with the economy, like decoloniality. but I was at this conference regarding the decoloniality, and their like economies in the decolonial theory, they usually give examples where like they produce something with the community and not by the state, and then da 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 da. But then most of the things that Kazakh people, like in Almaty especially, when you buy this ornamented accessories, they're created in China usually. And then you cannot like put it as an example of the community creating some sort of commodity or good, like making it together and making it, yeah. But I think now I'm like too not confident to say, so I'll rather admit it and not comment on it too much.
No, I think it's great, and you're raising all of the important questions. I mean, to your last point, like for the consumer, does it matter if it's produced in a Chinese factory or if it was made by a local art collective? I mean, this is an interesting question, because for some people it might not matter. Yeah. If there are any questions for Dinara, we can yeah, Michael, please. We'll spend a few minutes doing this, and then we'll turn it over to Bonu in a bit.
I apologize in advance. There's less of a question, more just a couple of reactions and comments I want to say. But first of all, thank you very much. I think you're right. There's lots of things, too many questions for one paper, but as Nicholas alluded to, that's a good thing. I think there's a lot of possibility you can take. You can work with this. You can kind of draw it out. I'm very excited to see where you go with this. One question I have that I will not ask you to answer, but if you could maybe put it in chat or text me or send an email me off the participant directory or something. Your comment about the woman's body as the recreation of the nation was something I thought was particularly intriguing, especially in a Soviet context. If you have more information about that, love to hear more about that at another time. But also, what I wanted, I would say another time because I know time is very short right now. But the one thing I wanted to bring up, and this is both different and I think akin somewhat to that. So I was in Mongolia in the early 90s when Mongolia became the first Asian nation to transition out of Marxism and out of Soviet stuff. And it was different. It was not part of the Soviet Union, but was treated as a colony. And what's fascinating to me is even though you're talking about contemporary issues, some of the same things very much popped up there. And the two things I sort of wanted to share was that at the time it was the trading partner got lots of stuff from the Soviet Union and also from the DDR, East Germany, that came in. And people would buy things that were not sort of traditionally Mongolian. This is like in the 80s and the lead up to 1990 when it made the transition. Because you'd sort of, as I said, accessorize your traditional garb with a few modern things, very fancy watch, fancy whatever, and that would help you stick out. Then as the transition started, it was a combination of if you wanted something foreign, it wanted to be from the West, not from the East. And then also people did, it wasn't just the traditional garb for, the for the New Year's celebrations or for this or the special ceremonies. They would start to wear some of this start to wear some more traditional garb, even going to the office and such. Whereas 6 months earlier, they'd been wearing more sort of Soviet style clothing, this and that. And one of the things that always seems to me that actually a colleague of mine mentioned to me, I'm not sure this is accurate, I can't point to anything, is because people were looking for ways to get in touch with their roots, with their cultural heritage. And Mongolia really was just steamrolled by that. And so there was not a lot of aspects that were left. And one of the things people tried at first was to learn the original scripts. And that proved to be too hard for a lot of people because the original script is just completely different. So what they could do, though, well, if they couldn't learn the original script, they could go and they could buy something that was emblematic of the traditional clothing or traditional fashion and show their sort of everyday nationalism. And I love that phrase, by the way, everyday nationalism, and show their everyday nationalism just by saying, hey, yeah, I haven't learned Mongol Beachik yet because it's really, really tough. But guess what? I am now going back to wearing the style of Dell, the style of hat, the style of boots, or something like that, and maybe blending it with what else they're doing to sort of show that everyday nationalism. And just it goes into my last comment, which is I love the comments everyday nationalism and how that versus with decolonizing oneself. And I think what they're trying to do when I look back on it is they were sorting out how to decolonize themselves. And what I find fascinating about all that is like it sounds very similar to what you're talking about now, even though it's, over 30 years later. And so I don't know how much that means just different is it the new generation is finding what matters to them and what their particular combination of everything is, or whether it's just, the same issues being revisited or what? But I was fascinated by that. If you do publish more stuff on this, I would love to read it. If you have other things, especially dealing with the woman's body, the recreation of the nation, please let me know where I can find that stuff. But I know you're worried about going first, but I think you did a really good job, and you set a good bar for everybody else in this session. And thank you, Nicholas. That's it.
Yeah, Dinara, if you take a few minutes to respond to that, and then we'll move back to some presentations.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. I will send you the works and the books to your email probably. And yeah, that's a question, like whether they're decolonizing or just like trying to figure out. But I feel like with methodology, like with the methods, like I don't know, because I don't want to be the researcher who leads my interviewees to a certain point, like maybe you're trying to decolonize. And I feel like through interview, like through the questions I ask, I might accidentally make them think about that. But what if they're just buying it because two of their friends bought it and it looks cool on Instagram, and it's like everybody's like kind of into that? But also like maybe it's like from both ways, like consumers, but also the people who sell objects. Maybe they also like feel like, oh, now if I put ornaments to the coffee, so in Almaty you can buy a coffee, and then the milk they will make it through with the ornaments, and then you can put it on Instagram, and then more people will like it. And that's what makes me really curious. But yeah, about methodology, maybe in this Usta mentorship program I will ask more. But yeah, thank you a lot for the kind words, and I wish luck for further presenters.
Okay, thank you so much, Dinara. And again, if people have questions for Dinara, we'll have another round of questions at the end. So feel free to drop those in the chat or just hang on to them. And now we're lucky that two of our other presenters have joined us, which means we can continue with the program. So just as a reminder, you'll each get 20 minutes. And thank you, Mieste and Bonu. We'll start with Bonu. So you'll have 20 minutes to give your presentation, and then we'll go right to Mieste, and then we'll do a final round of conversation and questions to close out the panel. So take it away, Bonu. I'll give you a 5-minute warning, and then again a 2-minute warning when your time's running up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for giving me a stage, and I apologize for being late here, as I was expecting to start my presentation at 11, and of course time zone differences, a bit confusion. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yep, we can see.
It should show you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good. So 5. Yeah. Today I'll share some insights from my PhD research. I'm first of all a PhD researcher right now at the Natural Building Lab at TU Berlin in Germany, and it's about houses for low carbon futures in Central Asia. And some insights will be shared with you, which is gained, and also we did inauguration and openings in Tashkent. By the way, right now I'm in Uzbekistan, and we have different time zones, like it's already evening. Uzbekistan, like much of Central Asia, is urbanizing at an unprecedented pace. The housing sector is expanding quickly, mostly with concrete and fired brick, materials that are energy intensive and poorly adapted to the dry continental climate. This pattern on your screen comes from the Soviet construction legacy, and also where industrial materials symbolized progress, and second as a kind of modern type of housings nowadays going to be built in Uzbekistan. So this is actually research motivation and research questions, what is expected in my research. We try to combine both national and modern type of housings, and try to give new future-oriented housing types, considering energy efficiency, local materials, low-tech locals, and it also should be modern planning and should be accepted by people locals who live and uses in the future this kind of housings. So many kind of questions they were. Actually, we chose 3 of them, which is considered main important questions. The first, how can traditional knowledge from building form to material know-how inform contemporary climate strategies? And the second one, what institutional and cultural barriers prevent low carbon alternatives from entering the mainstream? And the third question was, how effective are such approaches quantitatively? How much carbon can they actually save compared to current practices, like, for example, energy efficient solar houses, as you see at the second point. We had some different methodologies, like few of them can be seen on your screen. Field researches we did, for example, in Tashkent, Hiva, Bukhara since last 2022 till 2024. And also we did energy simulations using IDAI's Sweden softwares and also Kala for calculating LCA results and ELCA from Germany's softwares we did. Also, there were some interviews with experts and local residents, literature review and documentary analysis. And, the next slide shows socio-political and cultural barriers. Also, we had there were problems based on the construction code itself, but also socio-political and cultural barriers. As you see on the left side of the slide, this is a view comes from northern part of Uzbekistan, from Khiva, precisely located. These are earth-based local houses and their views. And these are the picture where locals are used to see as a local house or rural houses. And on the right side, Honabad comes from the southern part of Uzbekistan, but also you can see everywhere in rural areas of Uzbekistan where since 2009 have been being built many type of one-story single-family houses. And this is from the point of the view of government, and how they represent future rural housings, and they are based on the construction codes, which is they should be built. However, during the living in these houses, locals are trying to adapt them as they are used to live in Hiva style houses, for example, earth-based, and also the streets also not directly going to the one straightforward. They are not straightforward or one-sided, a little bit different shapes. So we are trying to combine both of them and find some combinations, and also finding modern equal to concrete mindset and public aspirations have to solve these problems. And let's move forward. For example, here comes towards low carbon futures. How do we see solving this problem or this question? So while observing all type of housings in Uzbekistan, we we found 3 type of main rural and suburban single family housings. The first comes traditional adobe or pakhsa earth-based houses. A second, brick construction houses, which is called rural housing nowadays. And the third one is nowadays they are going to build using concrete construction houses. This one is very symbolic on this slide because they are very different shapes and we couldn't choose alternative one version of them. And the fourth one is what we are going to give as one alternative version, which is similar to the traditional designs and also considered climate change and social memory, and also it's built using natural materials, which there is abundance and access to build such type of houses. Of course, carbon efficiency, energy efficiency considered in these housings. So using all this local knowledge, oh, it didn't change, did it? Ah, yeah. Using all the local knowledge, the prototype of housings we try to create, and the prototype itself is quite special. It's story 84 square meter home built on the one of the local universities campus in Tashkent in 2024. This year actually we did integration of it. The walls combine timber framing with straw clay infill, a renewable locally sourced composite. The design integrates passive ventilation, generous shading, and rooftop photovoltaic panels. Beyond being a test building, it served as a teaching and also a research platform for local engineers and craftsmen, bridging academic and practical knowledge. Here you can see some of the photos, facade views of this housing prototypes, which we did as a model house, we used to call it, basically. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you also its video, just for 1 minute. And what kind of results we gained here when we simulated both houses under the same climatic conditions. Actually, in the previous slide, as you see here, 4 housing types we researched, and we created their digital form of it, and using IDAI's software, we did simulations for the energy efficiency and also LCA using Kala softwares. But as a reference to get the same results, similar results, and make it easy to compare with each other, we used as a reference our modern wooden house. So here comes results. It shows the wood straw clay house required about 65% less heating and cooling energies than the brick references. Or you can see the best results for the wooden house at the last column. It should be in green on your screen. And also very interesting results comes here as a thermal comfort dissatisfaction, or how locals felt or feel living inside of those kind of houses. And our model shows again less percentages, which means it is better living in wooden house in Central Asia. Parsa, a local traditional house, first column, and second second and third shows conventional brick and concrete based houses, and they have almost similar results for dissatisfaction and a little less results for thermal dissatisfaction for the wooden houses, and the rest of the results shows best with less CO2 emissions, electric heating, and electricity use for this model house. And when also we applied the photovoltaic panels, and the building even achieved near net zero performance in the Tashkent climate zone when we applied it. These numbers show that material choice alone can shift an entire energy balance. So next slide shows the heating cooling demand, which is decreased by 65%. And each house type shows again 4 different colors, and in the violet color you can see our model house, which is really very low numberings. I'm proud to show them that it's achieving really nice results. So the next column, next graph shows CO2 emissions comparison with PV integration when we applied solar panels. As you see, it's almost doubled less when we apply to the wooden house and compared with the brick-based conventional Uzbek house. So this next slide shows life cycle impact, or LCA comparison, for the conventional type and the Vigera project per square meters. And you can see on the first graph embodied carbon for the A1 and A3. Unfortunately, we couldn't apply all of the stages of life cycle assessments like C or D parts as a lack of the data sheet here. However, for our research, it's not very necessary because it can be researched for the next researches, but here we gained what we needed, the results for the embodied carbon, for example, 45%, using local renewable materials gained, and operational carbon also showed 70%, and total life cycle reduction was almost 60%. So now to see the presentations video, it is just 1 minute. It's about bigger house results. That's it. And this work actually was carried out within the Vigera project. Vigera is a project collaboration funded by the IKI organization under BMBF in Germany. It is made by a collaboration between TU Berlin, Natural Building Lab, and Hani Hochschule Eberswalde. And also C4 ICRAF in India, and Tiame and NRU in Tashkent. And this was a 5-year project supported by the International Climate Initiatives. And that's the result of what we did during our project. And my part was finding out, researching all of those results for the traditional buildings, and and making their comparison, and also doing simulations, and also participating in during the designing part of this house. And we are really happy that it is built as a model house in Tashkent. And also we did policy papers for the government to the construction Ministry of the Construction of Uzbekistan. And we are waiting the results for the future, adding some new codes, construction codes. And we are hopeful to change and adding new codes. Also, we did educational materials on the platform of World Lectures project. And on YouTube, also we did some learning materials, video materials for this DIY houses. Yeah, I think that's it. And thank you for listening me. And I'm grateful to all of my colleagues and everyone who is here listening me. And I will be happy to take any questions or discussion, further ideas for integrating renewable construction into Central Asia housing policies. Thank you. And you can contact me if you have any more questions or feedback.
Thank you so much, Bonu.
Can I stop now?
Yeah, please stop. Also, if you have the link to the video or anything else you want to share, please put it in the chat. I know for some of us the video was a little bit choppy, so others might want to take a look at that. So feel free to share that. And we'll do a round of questions after we hear from our next speaker. Let me pull up. Oh, I already lost our panel. So let me introduce him. But yeah, we'll do a round of questions. I'll offer some comments, and then we'll open it up to the chat again.
Okay.
So for our last paper for this panel, we'll be hearing from Mieste Hotopp-Riecke, who's at the Institute of Caucasian, sorry, I'm going to mess this up.
Caucasica,
Tatarica and Turkestan
Studies.
Studies. And thank you so much for joining us, I believe on the highway. And we're excited to hear about Qaytarma, German-Crimean Tatar cultural heritage in the context of decolonization, exile, and empowerment. And we'll give you 20 minutes to present, and I'll give you a 5-minute and 2-minute warning to let you know when your time's running short. So take it away, Mieste. Uh-oh. Okay, we may have lost him. Let's check.
It might be just that he would need to like kind of like reconnect. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can ask him to also turn the camera off. That might help. Mieste, if you can hear us, let me know. Okay, I think, Christian, if you could work with him to try to figure that out, maybe what we'll do is open up questions for Bonu and then come back to Mieste's presentation at the end. We'll save enough time. So yeah, Bonu, thank you again. And thanks everyone for being flexible on this panel. It's been a little bit of a we've changed the structure a little bit, so I appreciate everyone's flexibility, and it's nice to see you again. I know you gave a similar presentation last year at I think it was last year at Syracuse, so it was exciting to be again refamiliarized with your project and hear about it. So just a few comments. So one, I'm curious about and this is me not being a specialist in architecture or anything related to what you're studying, but I was curious when you were showing that image of Honabad and like the current state policies, because my God, there's no shade anywhere. Is like building this kind of, I don't know, it seems to me that like when I think of the Central Asian Havli, I imagine these vineyards of grapes and things, and given how hot it is and this access to shade seems to be a really important part of rural life in Central Asia, especially in these regions where it gets so hot in summer. Is that a consideration that you or these architectural plans have when they're thinking about these projects? I was just curious because that also seems like an important part of local knowledge. And then when you were talking about the low rate of dissatisfaction, so that people were really happy with this project idea, I was curious, did you talk to these people that you're interviewing about the local aesthetic and how important that was for them? Was this a selling point for people who were interested in this project? And really, I'm trying to get you to connect it to the theme of the panel here, which is also about the importance of cultural heritage. I think you made a really convincing case about the efficiency, the energy efficiency of these projects, but I am interested also in like the local knowledge and the perception of the importance of local knowledge that went into this wonderful project. And then I was wondering if you could talk to us about like, yeah, what you think the future of these of this architectural project looks like. Do you imagine finding customers in Tashkent area or in other parts of Uzbekistan to actually build and live in these? I'd be curious to hear about the forecast, but yeah, maybe take a few minutes to answer those questions, and then we can see if there are questions from the audience.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Nicholas, for so many, 4 questions actually. And I'm happy that you're already familiar with my work. But if you remember last year in Syracuse University in person, I was presenting its initial steps, like it was just in research steps. And I'm really happy here today presenting its already made and integrated house built. The first question about shading, or did we consider it? Please, please correct me if I miss some of your questions because they're poor or if I misunderstand you. So if it was about shading, yes, you're really right. We like shading and in Central Asia as it's a dry, arid climate, and it's very important when there is no other alternatives. For making wind flows between housings, and also when there is a lack of the scarcity of water usage. And yeah, shading means a lot for these areas. We tried to research it actually in my own PhD part. I did a bit deeper research for the climate condition and spatial organization part for making how to make areas combining with housings and making it like a mahalla style, not straightforward cities like in Honabad directly, which gives way to direct very strong wind flows, instead making it like different figures using volume in space and space in volume strategies. There are also another interesting research. Actually, this is a very deep question to answer it. Maybe I'll try to make it shorter. Yes, we did some researchers, but today I'm not presenting this part. Actually, it was about just one house itself, not its surroundings or environment, how to make it better. But yes, you are very right. Because when we did and locally used on the local knowledge, we always try to use neighboring houses and how to plan our around surroundings, not only itself one house, because we always, used to make to live in courtyards. Yeah, moving to the second question, if I remember, it was, did you talk about dissatisfaction? Did you talk about dissatisfaction with locals? Yes, I did actually 25, more than 25 actually interviews, and they were semi-structured interviews with locals, experts, and also architects, and also locals who live in this country. And also I try to show these houses and to collect their feedbacks. That's why I'm trying to show it in different circles, circle of the researchers, circle of the in different areas to get feedback from people how they feel. Actually, I showed here dissatisfaction.
Can I add to that?
Yep.
So specifically, my question was when you were talking to them about that dissatisfaction, or just talking about their impressions, did the fact that these were based on traditional housings or the traditional cultural heritage of Uzbekistan, was that important to the people you interviewed? That was my question.
Was that important to the people I interviewed?
Yeah.
For them, yes, it was important because actually I try to do interviews mostly who I knew by their background, who they are architect or not architect, but very deeply in cultural heritage, local knowledge. Also, they care about. Yes. They were very satisfied for having such kind of houses. But yes, you're right. There were also some uh, negative feedbacks that it can never be accepted by locals because we are not used to live in a timber houses. It's look like a European style or Finland houses, Canadian houses. You cannot adapt it here because we don't have a timber construction forests, something like this. But by the other side that we have some statistics, yes, it's actually possible. That's why, yeah, they were only negative dissatisfactions about this part, like materials and also its look, how it looks like. But living inside, no, there wasn't any kind of dissatisfaction or something negative.
Interesting.
Could
Yeah.
I reply your question, or maybe a little different side eye?
No,
No?
that's what I was asking. Yeah, I was curious about like the perception of those houses as like, are they, you know, Uzbek or Central Asian enough or not? So you answered the
Yeah.
question. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
And
the
then
question
just a
about the
little,
customer how to sell it.
yeah, exactly.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Maybe your microphone.
please answer this last question if you like.
Yeah, of course. The customizing this part is interesting. Yeah, we have thought about it, but not really researched it. But we are curious how to make it. How is it possible? Actually, we found some entrepreneurs who are interested in it and also build some timber houses in Tashkent, in some parts, like in Bostanlık, by their own budget. 11 houses, and they called it eco-friendly housing, and many people are curious to live in them, like recreational zones or some parking zones, yeah. So it can be actually adapted, and maybe we are very hopeful it can be used and built in the future in Uzbekistan with no problem.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'd like to give the audience an opportunity if they want to ask Bonu some questions.
Ja, aber wie? Du musst einfach darauf
Excuse
klicken.
me, Mista, can you
Ja.
mute yourself for now?
That's right.
Drück mal darauf.
Thank you. So if we have any other questions for Banu, now would be the time to ask, and then in a few minutes we'll move on to the final presentation. Okay, I'll assume there are no questions for now, but if that changes, we'll also have a little bit of time at the end. So, Mista, are you ready to share your presentation?
So, in principle, yes, but I don't know how to share the PowerPoint presentation.
So yeah, luckily we have an administrator here who can help us with that, but if you're on your phone.
Are you on your phone or you're on your laptop?
Laptop.
Then you can just open your PowerPoint, and in the Zoom you can share your screen, and then we can see your PowerPoint.
Okay. PowerPoint is anyway open.
Then you can just go in a Zoom and share your screen. There's a button at the bottom of the window, probably.
It should be a green button, right?
Yeah, here is a green button for giving the screen free.
Yeah, can you click that? Share?
Yeah. But how to find them? No.
So once you click share, it should ask you what you want to share from your computer, so you can click your PowerPoint. Is that right, Christian?
Yep. Or share the whole screen.
Yeah.
Good question.
And if you get stuck and you cannot find it, the email that I sent with the direct link, you can respond to it and send the PowerPoint to me, and I can share the PowerPoint for you. And then you can just go next slide and talk over the PowerPoint.
Okay. Just a moment. So, yes, I saw your last mail. Yeah, so sorry, dear colleagues, but we wanted to stay in Warsaw, where we had a conference, an international topology conference, and we wanted to start tomorrow morning back, but private things of my colleague, Dr. Teilich, happened, and we had to start immediately. So, info panel, okay. Answer by, okay, I tried. Oh no, there are 55 MB.
Oh, that's a large one.
I guess no chance. Okay.
Maybe you can do your presentation without the PowerPoint. Is that possible?
Yeah, in short terms, I could explain what we are doing here in Germany and Poland concerning the Crimean Tatar artifacts and the, how to say, the actions with the aim reclaim your own history. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Perhaps in a few minutes an overview, so that we have an idea what we are doing here. So, and afterwards, who is interested, I could send all the materials in. So, yeah. In short terms, in my contribution, I wanted to show the potential and the resonance of Crimean Tatar cultural artifacts as, so to say, lieu de mémoire, or and fixed point in the collective memory of the Germans and Crimean Tatars by presenting their provenance, materiality, and symbolic semantics of this artifacts. Yeah, we have more alone in Berlin more than 1,000 of such things from the area. What you want, jewelry, paintings, literature, old Quran exemplars, and yeah, because for many centuries there were cultural contacts between Crimean Tatars and Germans, whether through dozens of diplomatic missions from Crimea to Prussia and Saxony, or through the presence of thousands of Muslim Tatar soldiers in the Saxon and Prussian armies, with their families, yeah, with kids and wives. Over the centuries, these contacts generated thousands of cultural artifacts. That's why we have so much. But these were almost never shown in exhibitions. That's a pity, and that's why we are working together with the Crimean Tatar younger generation now in Germany. We made this year one book, first time in Germany in German language concerning Crimean Tatar issues, and first time 3 documentaries in German and Ukrainian language, which will be presented next year also in Crimean Tatar and English language. Yeah, we hope that our new project, which started now in November, titled Avdet Qaytarma, it means return and dancing in circles. Yeah. Crimean Tatar cultural heritage in context of decolonization, exile, and empowerment. Exactly, that's why I wanted to talk about in this panel. This project focuses on Crimean Tatar collections held in the libraries and museums and archives in Germany, state archives as well, private archives as well, Some foundations have such things, and also so-called Gastarbeiter, guest workers from the 60s, because the huge amount of the Crimean Tatar migration community came in the 60s and 70s from Turkey. Yeah, their ancestors were from Crimea and fled because of the Russian wars and so on. And they were close and interwoven the last decades with the so-called Grey Wolf movement, the far right and ultra-nationalist movement here in Germany. But the younger generation, they are now not anymore interwoven with this old generation of Crimean Tatars from Turkey, as well as not depending from their political views. Yeah, so that's why it is a chance. It's bitter, it's ironic, but because this young generation fled from the war and occupation and started in Germany a new life, yeah, they have nothing to do with the old structures and try to use now the artifacts in the museums and so on for doing films, doing events, and earn money also through dealing with the subjects, yeah, in the exile. So that is an interesting point from for me as a sociologist, also as an anthropologist also, yeah. So yeah, so we have a lot to do, but as you can think, not good budget, low budgets, because we are an institute, not at an university and freelance institute, more a network institution. But we have success. We will be on tour now with the 3 documentaries which we made, and the book from Vienna to Berlin, from the north and the Baltics to Warsaw and so on, and bring it to the people. Yeah, this knowledge and this new approach of that Crimean Tatar people, and in every city join us also young Crimean Tatar artists from the local communities also. Yeah, of course there's criticism from the old structures, but they didn't reach such targets the last 4 decades, 5 decades, because they lived more in a parallel society, so to say, close to the Turkish ultra-nationalists from the MHP, BBP, and so on. Yeah, so yeah, in short terms, that is what we are doing here. Cultural artifacts as a tool for empowerment of Crimean Tatar young generation, you know.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, this is a really cool project, Misa, and I'm really glad to hear about it. I do have a few questions, and maybe some of these will be in the presentation that I'm sure you'll send us all. But I was wondering if you could give us, yes, yeah, let's all give a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the examples of things we might find in these collections. I think in your
In the
abstract you
PowerPoint,
mentioned.
you can see it, yes.
Okay, but
It's a
maybe you could talk
yeah,
a little bit about
it's
it.
from
What kind of artifacts?
yeah, there are, for instance, in Berlin, we have old shellac plates, old wax rolls with Crimean Tatar songs from the First World War, from camps from posts, prisoners of war, and in the Second World War from the Crimean Tatar units inside the Wehrmacht. There were Crimean Tatar and Volga Tatar legions in the Wehrmacht, and they were in studios from Areola EMI in Berlin, and we discovered first time this old stuff and will digitalize it. So one example. Other things are paintings from researchers in the 19th century. Nearly since 160 years, they are stored in Berlin at the Museum of European Cultures. But we don't know why this grandiose, brilliant artifacts were never a part of an exhibition. So, and that's what we want to change with applications on bigger, long-time projects. For we apply at foundations and state units and so on. Other examples are pottery, ceramics, silver, gold, wooden artifacts from Crimea itself. We have books, of course, because the Crimean Tatars were expelled from Crimea. They were deported, and every publishing house, cinema, the literature, the books, all was burned, or they put it in the Black Sea, and so on. They didn't have much at Crimea itself, but here is the sources are huge here, and in Denmark, in Austria, and so on. And we want to do a survey now for the Crimean Tatar and Ukrainian colleagues in Kiev, and they will get from us first time a catalog as an overview and survey, and they can then choose, okay, that's interesting for us, but if we want to work with these artifacts in a long-term project, where will be how could we earn money, how and where could we apply for grants and so on. We will do researches at one side. On the other side, we will give support to find opportunities to go further next year with small groups of Crimean Tatar or Ukrainian colleagues then.
Thank you. I just have a few more questions and I'll ask them and you can answer what you choose, and then we'll open it up for the chat. And for the chat, if you have questions for Mieste or any of the presenters, Dinara or Bonu, feel free to share those. So this is a history I didn't actually know much about. I guess it makes sense that in the early 20th century, a lot of Crimean Tatars, even in the late 19th century, found themselves in Turkey, especially fleeing during World War One and the Revolution. But how interesting to find out that now they've made their way to Germany, and I didn't know about this far-right connection, although I guess in the context of the Cold War, it makes sense.
It's a pity. It's a big problem.
Yeah. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like who these Crimean Tatars are in Germany. Do they still have connections to other cultural organizations based in Turkey or perhaps even in the former Soviet Union now? And could you just share a little bit about that and maybe talk about the politics
that is a
of the
good
diaspora?
question for a weekend workshop, because it depends.
Briefly.
Yeah, it depends from when they came and which social stratification you are looking for. Yeah, so the older refugees, migrants from Turkey, they founded associations in the
Mieste, your
late
audio is cutting out.
60s, in
We
the
can't hear
70s.
you. Maybe you could turn your camera off so that we can hear you.
No. Sorry, and our
Mieste,
in
I'm
short
sorry,
terms,
we still can't hear you. Could you try to leave and rejoin the chat? Rejoin the call?
I yeah, the power of my laptop. And now also the power of the power bank and laptop and is over. Oh man, yeah.
It seems like we can hear
What
you again.
the try the power ends also here. It's a power bank in the laptop, so it's a pity. Yeah. So sorry, dear colleagues, but
Okay, I think we'll have to maybe we can share Mista's contact information if anyone's interested in connecting and learning more about the project. Unfortunately, this is the nature of doing an online workshop. So I appreciate everyone's patience. Mista, could you
oh,
please
sorry,
mute
so sorry,
yourself?
dear colleagues. Yeah.
Sorry about this. Yes. And yeah, you can find his contact information on the website. Mista, if you can hear me, you can also leave your email in the chat and we'll know how to connect with you. But yeah, I think unless there are, I'll take one more round of questions. If anyone wants to ask anything, we can do that. Otherwise, I think we can conclude this panel. Going once. Last questions, last comments. Well, thank you, Mista, and thank you, Dinara, and thank you, Bonu, and thanks to everyone who showed up, and sorry for the little bit chaotic nature of this panel, but I think we brought together three wonderful presentations, and I'm sure it was useful for the presenters, and I certainly am excited about these three different projects, and wish you all the best. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
And good job on your presentations.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.